Hi guys. This is my first time doing one of these, but I only have the technology to use my phone. So Sean here doing a solo draft analysis. Won't be as pretty or neat as the ones we've done in the past, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents because I have an hour drive to work and I'm up in the middle of the night with a baby, so I have all the time in the world to stare at a spreadsheet. So I am using the Team Burb spreadsheet. I've plugged in everybody's teams and I'm just going to methodically go through them bit by bit over my drives to work and my midnights with the baby until I've made my way through all of them, however long that might take. I think everyone had a really cool draft, and I don't think there is a single dud among the whole group. Like everyone drafted really scary stuff this season. I think people have gotten very good at draft over the years and seasons now that we're in the 20s. But even our newer people like Riz and Photon have like crazy good drafts. So I mean, I am excited for the season. And with no further ado, we can get into it. I'm just going through in the order in which we drafted. So first up is Liam with the Necrozmas. Um, this is an interesting team. I think we can all agree Mega Scizor is a menace. It's offensive, it's defensive, it's a great thing to build a team around. It can roost up, it can be a real, nightmare to get rid of if you can't get some of those key weaknesses hit. And I think he built a very solid Fairy Dragon Steel around it with Hydreigon and Sylveon. I think both are personal favorites of mine. Hydreigon, I think it can do a lot. It can be utility, it can be offense especially, or it can be offense physically, not as well, but it's still got stats for it. It even is bulky enough that it can do some defensive work with Levitate and a Dark typing. 2 immunities is nothing to sneeze at. Sylveon's Pokemon we've all discussed a lot. I personally think it is worth the tier it's in. I think it's better than most fairies, and most of the constraint is just, did you give it the team to do the thing it needs to do? It's one of the few fairies that has fire coverage. There's a lot of things that can otherwise wall its contemporaries like Florges and stuff like that, but then this thing shoots at Mystical Fire, and suddenly instead of being a 5-hit KO, it's a 2-hit KO or a 3, and that is not an insignificant factor. I also really like the Fire Water Grass core here. It's kind of like sometimes you see them all oriented physically, or some of them all oriented for offense, or all oriented for defense, and I feel like this one's more of a mix. Keldeo, obviously, a really good breaker. Our league, historically, has not done much with it before. It's not been drafted very widely. It's been drafted a handful of times. So I still think there's a lot of potential there to unlock, and I'm excited to see if the Necrozmas can do it. Arcanine, this is a league favorite. It's top 5 drafted ever. It's got great abilities. It can have fire immunity. It can do Intimidate, and I think we all know how valuable Intimidate is in draft. The ability to take the bite out of what your opponent's trying to do can be, game changing. And then Toad is another one that our league has not touched a whole heck of a lot. I think its ability, where it always is negative priority status, has always kind of, I think people haven't been all about that specifically, but it's got good stats. Grass Ground is a good good typing, covered well by its buddies Arcanine and Keldeo. I think as a Fairy Dragon Steel and a Firewater Grass, there's 2 very solid cores going on here. And that's where we look at what he's got going on with the rest of the team. Pyukumuku, it pretty much just takes hits and toxics. That's all it does, but it's very good at that one thing. Bolton provides some very helpful speed to this team. Something up at the top that can kind of help deter someone from not going, deter someone from going like Adamant or Modest instead of the speed boosting natures instead. Lycanroc Dust kind of has a similar effect for this team. It's kind of help keeping the faster teams honest, while both having a reasonable attack, enough to be a threat to actually keep people honest. And then kind of the The mini star of the show and the namesake of the team is Necrozma. I think this thing is something that has a ton of potential that our league itself has not really touched. This is kind of a team of stuff that we know is good, but we haven't really historically seen people like really bust them open. Necrozma is really good for setup. It's great for weakness policy. It has an ability that reduces super effective damage. So I think it's only like 3/4 of what it would do, which I mean is amazing. That's a ton of survivability. It can set up in any which way. It can Calm Mind. It can Dragon Dance. Like I said a second ago, it's really good at weakness policy. Um, this is a really exciting Mon, and I think his team covers its weaknesses pretty well. So I'm really excited to see. And he's got a couple of good things to try to get it in at the best time possible. Looking at the weakness of this team, he did a good job. Like almost every type is got at least a slight resistance advantage. Only one that's got only one that is weak, and that's psychic. And some of those are in his bottom. Oh, excuse me, ground, not psychic. And some of those are in his bottom tier, so they're not all going to come. And one of his premier, core things that are probably going to come every week, Hydreigon, is immune. It loves to come in on ground types and drop like a Draco. So I think he did a really good job as far as managing his type chart. In terms of the stats on this team, it's not the bulkiest. I think that's something he's going to have to be really careful of. But that said, the specific mons you have, you don't need to have everything have a HP of 100 when you've got stuff like Scizor with a 140 defense, soaking up those physical hits and then roosting them off. Necrozma not taking as much damage as you'd expect in any other given matchup. He's got several immunities floating around trying to soak up damage that way. So while he's not got like high average stats, he's got a couple stars that are going to kind of carry the show a little bit because they're just so good at doing what they do and they can come each week so easily. And his team has got a nice, well-rounded approach on that type chart that they're not necessarily afraid of. Like, Scizor's my wall, but I can't bring it because there's fire types. I don't have anything else to eat the hits. No, he's got that covered. So I really like the speed tiers here. Nice walk down from 121 down to 95, then a bit of a gap of 79, and down to 60, then obviously a huge jump down to 5. Nothing you really do to bridge that gap. One thing he might run into is because his speed tiers are so well, if there's a slower team, they might just invest all in bulk and attack. They might not even bother with speed. But this will keep the faster teams very honest. Couple big special attacks in here. Couple good, solid special breakers. No real physical breaker, but a lot of stuff that will like very consistently bring the heat with 100 plus attack stats. Nothing up in the that 120, 130, 140 range that like really starts to like just punch holes in things. But they're not struggling to hurt things either. Now over in the move category here on the bottom right, I have the same moves I put for every team. The one thing it doesn't really highlight too much is priority and status. So much gets toxic. Will-O-Wisp is useful, but there's only so many slots. Priority is, I just thought, less important than what I have here, which is hazards, removal, pivots. Then I have screens, just I think it's really handy to have screens and knockoff if you can fit them into your draft. In terms of hazards, he's got some good options. I don't know that he's going to find a spot every week. The only super consistent rocker that would probably be there frequently is Hydreigon and Necrozma, and I think both of them like to bring other sets. Necrozma can probably be a rocker a little more consistently than Hydreigon can. He has a good Spiker and Toad Squirrel, but I don't know if Toad Squirrel will come every week because of how strong this top, let's say, 7 is. Um, in terms of hazard removal, he's got that pretty well covered between Hydreigon, Scizor, and Toad Squirrel. You pretty much always have something that can fit a Defog or a Rapid Spin in. I don't think he's going to be at a loss to keep hazards off with this team. Pivot-wise, he has a reasonable amount of pivots. I wouldn't say it's like ideal, but he's got 5, and I think especially that Arcanine Teleport might catch people off guard sometimes because you're really not expecting a slow pivot out of Arcanine. And the fact that Scizor, Hydreigon, and Keldeo can all switch around is great because they have a lot of synergy where they want to get out in front, like get each other out in front of each other's they want to get out in front of things that hurt each other because they can handle them so well. So the fact that they can pivot, if he can get the momentum built, he can potentially maintain it just through U-turns and volt switches and flip turns. A ton of reflect users, a good solid bit of light screens. If he ever wants to do a screens offense 1 week, he's got the pieces to do it. A couple good solid premier knockoff users, especially in Scizor. Necrozma is worth mentioning. Then some Thunderwave. He's got some pretty common to be brought Thunderwave users. So, fast teams, watch out. He might slow you down, and then you might not be so fast anymore. And that is Necrozma's. Moving on, we are going to go check out the Doodlers. Fan favorite, longtime coach. Kyle said this is going to be his Dark Bird season, so we'll see if he comes back and if all that experience is going to put him right back on top. He got a really, I think, fun team this season. I think he's the exact type of person I don't want drafting Roaring Moon or Ursaluna Blood Moon because he's that person who can figure out how to make a click. Not everyone can, but he definitely can if he wants to. He made Roaring Moon even scarier when he picked up Mega Charizard Y, who is kind of like a Sun team all by itself, but now it's boosting Roaring Moon too, which, that thing's attack stat. If you EV it correctly, which is something Kyle's very good at, he might be able to eke out like a speed boost on the week that it matters. Or maybe he's run choice spec with an attacking stat. He can do a lot of stuff, and he's very good at, kind of seeing that larger mathematical spread to where he can play around with EVs and get the results that he wants, and it's not something I know I'm good at. He's got Slowbro, just I think we all know, an amazing pivot. It just will eat up all those ice types going after Roaring Moon and Ursaluna. He's a Klefki. I think he's someone who can be very obnoxious with Klefki and Prankster. I think a lot of people are going to be finding themselves getting hit with Thunderwave. A lot of people are going to find themselves under Mountain Spikes. And as we get into his back 5, it's just consistently good mons that while they're not necessarily falling into any of your Fairy Dragon Steel, your Fire Water Grass, any one of them can be a real wild card on a given week. If you discount this one mon, you could lose the whole thing. You really drafted a lineup of 10 where it's I have to think about all 10. I can't draft for his best 6. I can't draft for his best 7. I have to consider all 10, because if I don't, number 6 is going to get me because I didn't prep for it enough. And I think that kind of forced scope of prep is going to lead to him winning some weeks just off of having prepped better, having built the better team, due to maybe having a narrower scope of what he's got to build for on his opponent's side. Ursaluna Blood Moon, it's our highest tiered Pokemon to have never been drafted. Well, now it's been drafted. Ground Normal, it's a good ghost immunity For Slowbro, Electric Immunity as well. It honestly pairs very well with Slowbro. As we continue to take a look at this guy. Now, the one thing that this team is maybe going to struggle a little bit with is it is a little frail on the special side. If you start launching ice beams into this team, or if you start like hydro pumping, if a fairy shows up and starts blasting and it's, key resist or two have been taken out, it could start to snowball. That said, they're going to have to do that before Kyle starts tearing holes through the team, because he's got so many things on this team that just excel at punching a hole through the other team. Terrakion, this thing hasn't been drafted since season 18. Premier fighting type. It's just, it's one of those things that's like, back a gen or two, and it was one of the best fighting types on the board. Well, it's not gotten worse. Some of the meta's just gotten better. So it's still just as good. And with the speed it's at, I think it could really get away from some people some week, especially if Kyle keys into the right, EVs, moveset, that sort of thing. It's got Justified. He's going to throw it in. It's going to need a knockoff. Suddenly, it's going to tear through your team. It's fast enough that it doesn't necessarily need a scarf. And it hits hard enough that it doesn't need a band or any of that sort of thing. I think some people are going to forget that Mr. Mime is fairy type now, and that's going to get somebody. I will say one spot this team. Well, let's just go ahead and go through our type chart here. Oh, something else to mention is Slowbro. As far as what this team wants it to be, it's perfect. It's got Regenerator. It's a slow pivot. It's going to keep coming in, take a hit, teleport out, Chilly Reception out, and then you're going to have Moon in front of you, or you're going to have Megazard Y in front of you, or you're going to have Ursulina Blood Moon in front of you, and suddenly you're going to be in a spot where something is taking a massive hit, and you're going to have to decide, what am I sacking? What am I going to cripple for the rest of the match? Because he's going to win the pivot game at least probably half his matches. He's just good at it. But if we go in here, we're going to look at his types real quick. So it looks like he's got maybe a slight ice weakness and a bit of a ghost weakness. But even there, kind of like we said, Liam, some of those are wrapped up in his low tiers. The stuff that's coming every week, not so much. I do think he has a bit of an ice weakness, but as long as Slowbro is alive and the opponent's not launching a freeze dry, he's sitting pretty. Slowbro can sit there, eat an ice beam. Ice beam's not going to do anything to Slowbro. He's going to bring it in. He'll regen it off as he gets whatever offensive tool he needs to clear out the mon that's checking the ice out. And then across the rest of the board, he's got big, for the most part, team resists to almost every type. He's got fairies, like I said, could give a little trouble just due to how they hit neutrally into the team on a lot of stuff. A couple of his things want to take ground, but he also has 2 ground immunities. So it's kind of like, do I have a ground weakness if I'm commonly bringing my ground immunes? All it takes is one with some of these types. If we get into his stat spread, again, it's not a like HP pool super bulky team. There are some very bulky options in here that if he needs something to take a hit, it can take a hit. Like we said, Slowbro loves to take a hit. It can't take every hit. It will get worn down eventually. There'll be a crit or someone will get a special effective coverage move in. But it can take a lot. And sometimes as offensive as that team is, that's all you need. Some take a couple hits and get the right tool out front. If you're taking trades, Slowbro takes a hit, you take them on. I mean, that's still winning. Um, Especially it's a bit bulkier than it is on the physical side. Um, but the offense is here. He's got breakers on both sides. He's got 100 plus offensive stats in both physical and special on multiple mons. This team is going to hit the ground running. It's going to do it, set up whatever conditions it needs to with Clef Key to try to ensure a win con, and then it's just going to bust open. It's going to start taking names. It's going to start tearing through things. You got to either be exceptionally bulky or you're going to have offense of this team. Because if you try to play like a bulky offense, I want to wear them down before they wear me down sort of play style, I don't think that's going to win against this team. I think this team is either going to run up against a wall so big it can't break it, or it's going to get outpaced. I think those are the two ways it loses. I don't think it loses, a more middle ground play style. In this team, the speed's great. Jolteon was, all in all, a great pickup there in the last round. It really did wonders for the speed tier on the top end. But, I mean, that's a real steady march from 130 down to 90, 75 down to 30. This is about as good as your speed tiering is going to get. I think he did a really good job of keeping that in mind and managing it as the draft went on. Really good. He has one of the higher base stat total averages across all the teams. We top out at 560. I'd say your average is 520, 530. He's sitting at 540. Just did a really good job this draft. Now, the one complaint I have on the whole team, we'll see as we look at the moves, and that is that as a team that doesn't have a lot of hazards that wants hazards. And I say as a guy who famously does not care about hazards or their removal, and just don't factor into my playstyle most of the time. But I can see that if I were normal, the hazard spare on this team might be a concern. I think Kyle will be able to manage it. I think he drafted the back end of his draft to try to manage it. But it could slow a team down that could have been even faster. Defog, he's got plenty of good users. I don't think he's going to have too many issues keeping, same with Rapid Spin, I don't think he's going to have a lot of issues keeping hazards off the board. And that might just be a playstyle of his team. Rather than trying to get hazards on and speed up the damage dealing, just keep the board clean, shoot off huge hits, win that way. Not a ton of pivots, but I mean, 4 out of 6, or 4 out of 10, 2 out of 5 Mons has it. It's not bad. I would love to see more, but I think the pivots are in the key places that he needs them to be. Roaring Moon can get out of a situation. Slowbro can get something else in that wants to be in and get itself out to heal. That's right. Excuse me, I completely overlooked Teleport there for a second. He's actually got, 6 out of 10? Never mind. He's good to go. I like that. 5. Yeah, half team can pivot. That's good. I like it. Lots of reflect. Lots of white screens. Can definitely do screens hyper offense on this team. Very good knockoff users. Arguably the best knockoff user in the meta with Roaring Moon. And lots of Thunderwave. Again, slow a team down. Roaring Moon doesn't need to worry about getting outpaced and hit with random coverage. It can just go into your team. And that is the Doodlers. Next, we're going to look at the Combustions. So this is Paco's team. He started off strong, grabbing arguably one of the most versatile Mons in the format in Tornado Solarian. It can do defense, it can do offense, it can do utility, it can do pretty much anything you want it to. Very few Mons are more versatile, except for maybe like Mew. And Mew doesn't necessarily have the survivability this thing does, and because it has Regenerator. One of the few not water, not grass regenerators in the game. The one thing that'll wear it down is hazards, and he doesn't need to worry about that because he also drafted Iron Treads who removes hazards all day. It's its job. It's what it does well. It hits into the things that want to put the hazard or that want to clear them on the other end, so it can put hazards up, keep them off its side, deter the stuff that wants to come out to clear it for his opponent. Great typing in ground steel. It can use booster energy to boost a stat of its choice. It's got the stat spread where it can kind of pick the stat it wants to go. It's not like some of the Paradox mons where it's kind of stuck in the one thing always getting boosted. I think he's going to have a lot of fun with that. He also, to kind of, he's got good special coverage over with Torn, but not a ton of good physical. But then he picked up Annihilate, who, as we have seen in the past, when it was piloted under Adam with the Pachirisu, is just a menace. If you can get it in, let it take a hit, get back out, wish it back up healthy, maybe get up some screens, just help it take as many hits as it can take. Then it just comes in, hits Rage Fist, and just starts clearing the board. I think Paco built a team that can do that. He's got several bulky things that it can run away out into. It's got Prim, it's got Iron Treads, it's got Torn, it's got Chansey, Dragowsy, Bronzong, Rotom, Volibee. So many things that can take these hits that it doesn't want to take, that take hits that it happily eats. And then it's got stuff like Chansey that can then, with its massive HP stat, wish it up. And then when the fighting type wants to take Chansey, goes for it. Chansey wishes in to Annihilate, but heals back to full. Its Rage Fist counter can start climbing again. It can start hitting back. So I just think he's built a good team to let Annihilate do its thing. He's got Primarina. I think kind of like, in my mind, it's right up there with the Premier Fairies, even though it's lower down here. It's bulky, but it hits hard. The one thing that's got going for it is not crazy fast, but I mean, 60 is not, it's fast for a bulky thing. It's not, it's slow for offensive, fast for bulk. It'll be outpacing your opponent's walls a decent chunk of the time. Chansey, I'm a big believer in Chansey. I think having something like that, where if he can take out your physical breakers, your primary physical attackers, he might be able to win just by sending Chansey out and hitting Seismic Toss and Toxic, and then just soft boiling up once you finally get it in like 6-hit KO range, because it takes special attacks all day, every day. And with stuff like Annihilate, stuff like Iron Tread, stuff like Prim, it doesn't have to necessarily worry about covering on the defensive side. So that top 5, very versatile. Lots of different things you can do it. And then just to make sure he was good on offense, he drafted Ogerpon Hearthling. This is one we've not seen used a lot, but it just has so much potential. It's got Mold Breaker, so there's no such thing as a fire immunity. No such thing as a grass immunity. It can just click its best moves and go in as hard as it can. One drawback, it cannot hold an item. So that would be your one, limiting factor with this mon, is it can't be artificially made faster. It can't be artificially made to hit harder. But honestly, it doesn't necessarily need to. It hits plenty hard all on its own. And it is already plenty fast at 110. That outspeeds a good chunk of the meta. This hits into steel types that this team might otherwise struggle with if Annihilate is hurting. It's into bulky waters, which this team definitely struggles with. It's a fire type without a water weakness, which is, super valuable. And then I think in these bottom 4 tiers, he just, kind of like I said with the Doodlers, it's 4 mons that you kind of have to prep for every week. Maybe 3. Depends on how much stock you put in the Volibee. The Drag Algae, it eats special hits really well. Not as well as Chansey, but I mean, it is pretty chunky on the special side. And it's no slouch when it comes to just dropping Dracos either. With that 97 is a respectable special attack. So, I mean, a wall that can hit back can be a scary thing. It can poison, it can flip turn, and then poison you on the way out. It's got adaptability that's boosting how much that Draco is hurting. Bronzong, very passive, very hard to kill. And if we're just looking at a way to pivot in some of these other threats, something to eat a hit for Annihilate, something that Torn can run out into to regen, Bronzong's perfect. It's got 2 different immunities, both good. You never know which one you're dealing with. We all tend to think we levitate, but sometimes it doesn't need to be levitate. It can be heat proof, and that is the better build choice. And I think Paco's got the skill to identify that and then leverage off of it. It's got, I think, body press now, so it now has kind of an offensive option and like an iron defense body press sort of offense. It's just fighting stab, but fighting is good stab. Rodent Frost. If I could draft a team of just all the Rotom forms, I would do it. I love Rotom. It's got to probably be in my top 5 favorite Pokemon. I've drafted Rotom Frost and Fan together about 5 times. I think at the price point they have to be some of the best mons in the tier. We're talking 107 attack, defense, special, and special defense. A very respectable speed in 86. Excuse me. It's only 107 in defense, special attack, and special defense. Oh, no. Now, Rotom Frost, is it the most durable of all the Rotoms? No. The ice typing does hurt it, but it's still a ground immunity. It's a great pivot. It takes the hits from the things it needs to. Like ice, electric, especially, is not a bad defensive typing. Is it going to want to take any physical hits? Probably not. But on the special side, it's really not a bad defensive typing. It's got your utility. You got Draining Kiss. You've got Pain Split. You've got Thunder Wave, Will-O-Wisp. All these different little moves that it brings it, and suddenly your life is more difficult than it had to be. And it's hard, and it's really hard to know which of the 2 handfuls of utility moves that it has that are all helpful it's going to bring. Pretty much the only move you can know of Rotom is probably going to bring is Volt Switch. Maybe Defog. So if we go down here and look at the type chart, the only real weakness of the team is Rocks. And to be fair, Rocks is not a minor weakness to have. It's a stab that lots of things get. Stone Edge, 120 base power move, just sprinkled all over the place. Annihilate doesn't mind taking a stone hit. Iron Treads doesn't mind even more. And anything that is feeding into Annihilate's Rage Fist counter is a problem. So it's kind of it's a weakness, but it's a weakness that he can play off of, which is more than I think most people can say about their type charts when you do see that red pop up. And then he has 3 neutral typings, and everything else has at least +1 into the resistances, and that is awesome. Really well drafted, Paco. Now, if we look at the stat box here, again, people just in general did a pretty dang good job with the speed tiering. There's none of these. No one has a real egregious gap. This one has a few more gaps, if you will, than the previous teams we looked at. But 106 to 90, that's not crazy. There's going to be some stuff that's sitting at 100. There's going to be some 101 that are in the middle there that are gonna. I know what way they have to go, but I mean that's just the game. You've got Chansey. It's an HP stat leader all on its own, but Annihilate also pretty thick and bulky at 110. Um, it says he has a bad average attack score, but that's because of Chansey. Right at top, we've got four things that have over 100 attack. At least one of them have just good straight breaker. They don't need any sort of setup to do good solid chunks of damage. Defense, we've got multiple things with over 100 defense. Special attack, we've got, again, several things with over 100 special attack. One's definitely a breaker. Spadef, super bulky on the Spadef side. It's not going to be necessarily the way you're going to go after this team. And then, like I said, good march down the speed tiers. Lower base stat totals than, I'd say, the average team. But I don't know that you feel that when you look at it. This team overall, I think, it's hard to say exactly how you beat this team because this team doesn't necessarily fall into your normal, hyper offense stall. If anything, this is bulky offense, maybe. This is a team that I think can go toe to toe with any other given team, and it's really going to come down to who builds better, who plays better that day. This team could, if it gears into its offense and the utility it can bring, could cripple a hyper offense team enough that it is able to outlast it. It also could power through a more stallier team with the right sets, right coverage, that sort of thing. And I think if you try to go toe for toe, bulky offense, it's going to come down to who plays better that day. If we look at the move chart here, great hazard spread, lots of different hazard setters, all sorts of different hazards. The only thing is missing is sticky webs. Plenty of removal options. I don't think losing the hazard game is necessarily going to be a fear for this team. Ton of pivots. Ton of pivots. 9 out of 10. So almost every single thing drafted can pivot. You'll love to see that. That means you have, the more pivots you have, the more options for, no free switches. You're doing something of use on a turn that helps you not lose momentum or maintain momentum, which I think, especially the longer you've been here, momentum is like king. If you can keep it, your odds of winning go way up. Decent amount of reflect and light screen on mons that are willing to use it and can potentially make room. Plenty of good knockoff users, Torn, Ogrepon, Iron Treads. A couple of Thunderwave users. There's also at least, I bet, one or two Will-O-Wisps on this team. So it does have options to cripple an offensive team, which I think it might just do 1 or 2 weeks. Really good draft Paco.